Well, good evening, SAS Innovate, and those tuning in on demand from across the nation. I know there's some friends from around the world that actually will be listening in. Welcome, everybody. I'm Stu, and I am the Senior Product Manager for Open Source Data Science here at SAS, and my sole goal is to make sure that people have a good experience running Python, R, or working with open source in SAS Viya. I've been in this role for about a year, and prior to that I was in visual analytics, but my role, I've been a data scientist using SAS since about 2009, which compared to many people I've talked to still makes me a newbie with SAS, but I've seen this language evolve so much over the years. And SAS Viya is designed to work both with SAS, with Python, and R. There are so many ways that you can manipulate data today, and we know that. We get that. And that is the goal of this presentation today, for people who want to use Python with SAS Viya, talking about how to do it and the best ways that you can work with it. Now, let's jump on into this. We are going to go through 6 different things today on our agenda. We're going to talk about the SAS extension for VS Code, SAS Studio, SAS Model Studio, SAS Viya Workbench, PROC Python, and then the SAS open source packages. Now, it's a presentation faux pas to choose anything that's not 1, 3, 5, or 10. And I chose 6. I don't have a good reason for that, but I will make it up to you later. So here's what we're going to do. We have a lot to go through, and I have one goal for this evening, and that is I want you to leave with this. I know some new places that I can run Python in Viya, and I want to go try them out in my workflow. That's what I want you to have from this. This is going to be rapid fire. We're going to go through these things, and that's what I want us to leave with. Here's how we're going to achieve this goal. Each section has 4 main things. We're going to go through what it does, what are the benefits, when to use it, and then go through an example. So let's get started with the SAS VS Code extension. If you are a Python programmer, this is probably the first place that you want to start. VS Code is arguably the place for Python programmers. The SAS VS Code extension is free on the VS Code marketplace. You can download it and install it. It's really, if you use Python, just go here. You can use SAS notebooks. SAS notebooks are just like Jupyter notebooks, except you can run SAS, Python, and SQL, and now R all together within it. The code that you run and the data that you work with is contained entirely on the server, and you get all those VS Code goodies. So if you have GitHub Copilot, will work right there. You will want to use this, I would say primarily if you're allowed to install VS Code on your laptop. If you don't really have a locked down environment, go straight here. So let's get into an example of how this all works. So here is what a typical SAS notebook might look like, and we're going to run through some code here. So you'll see if we zoom on in, this is a SAS notebook, and we are running Python. You can choose each code block to define what language that you would like to use. And here, we're just going to run some Python. That's it. You just run it on through, you get your data frames, you get your packages that you want, and all of this is contained entirely on the Viya server. You also, of course, get your figures from Matplotlib or Seaborn, whichever you would like to use, and it all works nicely, too, with your own ODS output. So it's great. It's pretty much what a Python programmer would want, but they're running in SAS. Now, let's flip to another scenario. You also have access to what's called our multi-language architecture. And here, what we're going to do is actually combine Python, SAS, and SQL all together in a single workflow. So first, with Python, we're going to fit a model using one of our SAS models from sasviya.ml, which we'll talk about in a moment. And then we're going to send that data frame over to a SAS dataset. From there, we are going to score with that model that we built with SAS using PROC A store. And then we're just going to query it with SQL. So if you are familiar with using data step code and that type of thing, you've probably done this type of thing where like, I'm gonna use data step for some stuff, some SQL for some stuff. This is kind of what we're doing here, but now throwing Python in there as well. So let's go ahead and run on through this. We'll build our model, and we'll just run through and create our model, score that model on our data. It runs really quick. And then we'll just query it with SQL. And you don't have to write PROC SQL or PROC Python. All of this stuff is being done for you in the background. It's just nice little code blocks. So it's really, really convenient and a really easy way to mix all of these things together and run things in a way that works best for you. Now, if you don't have access to the VS Code extension or you can't install that, I would say SAS Studio is the next best place for you to work with it. SAS Studio is the IDE that is built within SAS, SAS Viya. It's web-based, which your IT person will love because they don't need to deal with installing things on laptops and governing all that. And you could build visual code flows with it. So it's actually not as different from notebooks as you might think, and we'll see that in a moment. Since it's tightly integrated with SAS Viya, it's easy to go ahead and do all sorts of like integrations with it, move it around, integrate that in with things like Apache Airflow. There's a lot of cool things you could do there. If you're a visual person like me, this is Viya 4. Yes. So when you are, so if you're a visual person, great place to create your code blocks, run everything through. So here is what this looks like. When you get into SAS Studio, you'll be greeted with this. If you zoom on in, you'll see you got a little program in Python block. You could click that. We'll create a new Python program, just like you would a SAS program. And we are just going to do a real simple hello world just to show this is what this looks like. Just type it in, you run it, it spits out your results, and you're good to go. If you're like a traditional Python programmer, or really even SAS programmer, it's just a way to take your Python programs, your SAS programs, put them in a code file, and you're done. If you're a more visual person like me, you might want to organize these into code blocks. This is what I love about code blocks, is that you're able to order these logically from left to right, top to bottom, and you can do things like, for example, take your setup stuff like your imports, put them in one place, your different modules that you might want to do, put them in other places. You can then mix in, say, your SAS code as well. It makes a really nice, easy way to organize all of your code. And what's really neat about this is that you can actually convert VS Code notebooks into this type of flow. So there's an option that when you're in VS Code, you can right-click, say convert to flow, and it will turn it into a logical code flow from left to right for each notebook block. Super convenient. So I love this method because it's just super easy to understand. Other ways that you could do this. This is a bit of a more complex flow where we're mixing in a combination of some low-code stuff, some no-code stuff, some SAS code, and we pepper in a little bit of Python programs to do just some stuff that we want to do. But more importantly, there's a bunch of visuals that are built into this. So when you submit your code and your results, that is a seaborn plot, and if we scroll down, mixed in with all of this other ODS output that SAS produces, we can get all of our Python output as well. It's all in the exact same place, so you don't need to do anything kind of weird or unique to make the Python code show up in the results. It just shows up there if you use a SAS callback method called sas.show, and you point it at your figure, it will produce it and put it right there in your results. All right, so SAS Studio is primarily for data engineering. This is where you usually want to manipulate all of your data. You can also model there as well if you would like to, but if you're really trying to create a lot of models in a big model tournament, you probably want to go to Model Studio. Model Studio is where your data scientists will probably spend a good chunk of their time. In Model Studio, you are able to create visual model pipelines, and you can build your Python code and build those models in there. What I love so much about this, you get tons of diagnostics, a lot of diagnostics. Normally, a lot of the code that you would need to write to get the same level of diagnostics is pretty big. This just does it for you. Not only that, but you get to compare the Python models that you build with all of the other SAS models exactly the same way. So it's really no different than if you were building or building in SAS models. It's just now you've said, hey, here's my Python model. How is it doing? All right, so what does this look like? Well, we've got a really simple model here. We've just got a feature machine that's pre-processing our data. We can feed that into an XGBoost model with Python, and we're going to compare just a simple logistic regression in SAS. If we look on the left side of the screen here, we could see all of our nodes. And you can see you've got your SAS code and your open source code node. This is what you'll put into your pipeline and where you'll put your models. What this looks like is on the left here, we've got our XGBoost model here. And what this looks like is you have the ability to edit your code here. So you open up that code editor, and you'll see on the top, we have our training code. This is the code that you're writing in order to train your model. So you read in your data and your variables, and there's some helper variables there for you that allow you to read that in easily. And then you've got your scoring code, which when you pickle your model, this will register the model to model manager, and this is the code that will run and automatically score all of your code for you. So this allows you to register your model right here the same way that you would with SAS models. All right, so the other nice thing is I talked about those results. So if you right-click, we go to our results here. You'll see you get all of the things that you would normally get with SAS models. You get your variable importance. You get your assessment plots. You get your fairness and bias plots. I mean, if you think about how much code in Seaborn to create that, I mean, that's a lot of stuff. And you could even get all that in the model comparison. So if we look in there, we can compare how the Python model did with the SAS model, all together in one place. Fantastic place for working with your Python models, getting them out into production, getting them governed, really going through that overall data and AI lifecycle. Now, let's say you want to do something a little more experimental. That's where SAS Viya Workbench comes on into play. The SAS Viya Workbench is a lightweight, fast, really easy, pre-configured way to run native Python in a cloud environment that you could switch on the fly. And that's the best part about it, is you can control how much compute you need, what types of environments you want to use, and it's lightweight, it's fast, it's exactly the type of thing a Python programmer would want. The people who were designing SAS Viya Workbench literally had Python programmers in mind. So this is where you want to go if you can't have really SAS or Python or things like on your laptop, but you need to have a great way to do a lot of experimentation and play around. So when you go to SAS Viya Workbench, this is the page that you'll be on. You have the ability to change your compute, and for me, I want the most compute possible. So give me all the cores, give me all the RAM, and we're going to use as much as we possibly can because I can. Now, what's really cool is you have the ability to choose different types of environments. So you can either do VS Code, you could use Jupyter Lab, a Jupyter Notebook, and of course, Enterprise Guide as well. For those who love Enterprise Guide, you can connect there. We're going to go with VS Code, and when you launch this, you'll go ahead and you'll have you'll be able to work with notebooks. Probably the best place is just a standard Jupyter Notebook. But what's also in here is, you'll notice, we have these sasviya.ml models. So we're in standard Python, but also we have the ability to use SAS Viya models, part of our multi-language architecture. This, what we're actually showing here is actually based on a blog that I had written that was comparing some scikit-learn models with some SAS Viya models and doing some auto-tuning to see how well it would do. And the SAS Viya models are able to run through this data more efficiently and quickly than scikit-learn, because scikit-learn actually just kept failing. It wouldn't even run a default model after about 2 hours, but the SAS Viya models ran really well. Again, all of your output, plenty of stuff to work with. Really no learning curve here. But what you also get access to is terminal. So you get bash access to be able to create Python virtual environments. And that's a really important thing for Python programmers because you want to experiment with different environments. You want to experiment with different versions of Python and try all sorts of stuff. And you've got UV in there to be able to create those Python virtual environments. We also recognize how important that is for Python programmers in SAS Viya. And what we're actually working on right now is a governed, API-driven, and interface for creating Python and R virtual environments in SAS Viya. We're working on that right now, and we have some of the most talented engineers I've ever worked with looking at this, and we are sorting out how does a Python programmer really care about this? What does an IT administrator care about? How do we make sure that this is governed? How do we make this easy? How do we make this scalable? And there really is no stone left unturned with this. We're really delving deep into this, and we have some of the best people I've ever worked with working on that in SAS Viya, so really excited to be working on that project. All right, so now let's move on here to number 5 for PROC Python. What does PROC Python do? PROC Python just runs Python in SAS. That's what it does. That's all it does. And you might want to use this when you are running your SAS programs. But actually, the secret here is we've actually been using PROC Python practically the entire time. We've just been wrapping it and abstracting it away so that Python programmers don't need to worry about writing a PROC. That is the point of really a lot of these interfaces, is to make people feel more at home in Viya. They don't need to worry about that, but PROC Python is doing all the heavy lifting there, all the governance, all that good stuff, but they don't need to worry about it. However, if you're a SAS programmer, you might want to use PROC Python in the same way that you might want to use PROC SQL for certain types of data manipulation. You can delve right into PROC Python to do that. So, if you're an enterprise guide, you're connected to, say, a Viya server, or if you're connected to SAS 9, because PROC Python is coming to SAS 9 and 9.4 M10, you'll be able to do this. And what I personally think is probably the best use case for PROC Python is for like simple tasks. Really not anything particularly complex, like say, for example, you want to do something really, do something in SAS, and now you want to do some quick data manipulation or something in Python, and then you want to do something else in SAS. So this example is just super simple. We're going to filter sashelp.cars, which you will see pretty often in our demos, and then we're going to do some stuff with Python. So one of the things that I actually really like in Python is being able to convert columns to lowercase. This is one line. Since Python cares about that type of thing, it's really annoying when you get mixed case data sets. SAS doesn't care, but Python does. And so if you needed to convert all those to lowercase, doing that in SAS is a lot more code than in Python. So I'm just going to do that right there, Python. I'm going to print a data frame and then do some group by and then send that data frame back to a SAS data set. And then from there, we're just going to print it, just to show that, yeah, sure, we can do that. So we'll run that. It just runs through. And we get our results. So there we go. We get there's our average that we did in Python, and then there is our data frame. But you'll also notice, too, what we did is we sent this data frame to a SAS data set. You don't have to do this. In fact, I would say the most efficient way of doing this, if you don't want to convert stuff from data sets to data frames, just use Parquet or use DuckDB. You can query all of those things. They all come in, they're all usable by both whatever Python packages you want to use and also SAS. So that way there's a lot less data copying. All right. Well, now let's move on to number 6 here, our SAS open source packages. These have been around for quite some time. And in fact, it's one of the first things that we did with open source. And this was the traditional way that you would connect with SAS with your open source packages. And we have a lot of them out there on the SAS software GitHub. But I would say the 3 most common ones that you would use to manipulate data and work with things in SAS Viya is going to be SASPy, SWAT, and SASCTL. Now, what SASPy does is it's an interface to SAS. It is quite literally a really cool way of connecting to a SAS session, whether it's 9.4 or in Viya, and being able to run it through Python. That's pretty much it. SWAT is an interface to CAS that is only in CAS, so you can only do things that CAS can support in Viya. So it's not really fully a SAS session. It is rather a CAS session, and you can do things only with data loaded in CAS, and you're using things like CAS actions. SASCTL is for registering your local Python models. This is great if you create something like an XGBoost model. You got to get that in the model manager. SASCTL handles all of that for you. This is probably the best when you're OK with bidirectional data transfer. As far as I'm aware, there's not really an easy way to just stop somebody from taking data that you've connected to with, for example, SASPy and just pulling that down to your server. So if you're going to be using this, make sure that it's well governed and also probably on like maybe a secure server, like a terminal server somewhere or something like that. But if that's OK, then I wouldn't really worry about it. What I can say, though, is SASPy is our most popular package. It gets, oh my gosh, I can't remember how many millions of downloads a year, but it's a lot. It's really, really popular. So definitely take a look at this one. We've got people regularly updating it. It has no dependencies, and it's written in pure Python. So you can modify it and do some pull requests, which we've got some customers actually doing. All right, so let's take a look at what SASPy looks like. This is actually running SAS on my local computer. I've just started a session, and I'm just going to go ahead and download some data and do some stuff with it. So I've got some info in there describing it. These are all methods that are ultimately calling procs in the background. And that's what's so cool, is that this is, this .glm method is just calling procglm, or hpforest is calling proc hpforest, and you're getting all of your results in a way that is Pythonic and easy to work with. A lot of people really like this. I think it's really cool. I think there's a lot of neat new things that are coming out with it, and I'm a huge fan of SASPy. Now, SASCTL, this is where you are building your own model, and you need to register it to SAS Model Manager. This is, I would say, the best way to do it. SAS Model Manager has some particular requirements to register models, and SASCTL will do all of that for you. So it's written all the files that are necessary, and then you just use the import model method, and it loads all of that up into SAS Model Manager. So you can see it created a new project, and now it registered my XGBoost model that was on my machine. And if we head over to Model Manager, there's the project that it created. And there is the model that I built. You'll see all the files that it put together. So it created all of this for us, which you could do, but I don't recommend it. And that's what SASCTL is for. It generates the code for you, your scoring code. It generates all of the necessary metadata that is needed for SAS Model Manager to work with your models. And then from there, you could do something like, say, publish it to a cloud destination. OK. These are all the things that we talked about. We've hit the end here. So go ahead and take a picture of this. There is a handout, so you will have this available. But we talked about the SAS extension for VS Code, SAS Studio, SAS Model Studio, SAS Viya Workbench, PROC Python, and then the open source packages. And how you choose to use these, when you use them, and that's up to you. But each one of these has their own benefits and drawbacks, and you can always mix and match these as you need to. Say you just want to make models. Maybe Model Studio is where you want to live. Maybe you just want to use the VS Code extension. That's totally cool. I mean, it's all there, and it's ready for you to use however you would like. Now, here's the 3 things that I wanted to take away from this. Number 1 is go try one of these out. Go to your server and try out, say, a SAS open source package or PROC Python or what have you. Give one of these a try. See what you think. See how it feels. Try to integrate it into your workflow. Think about the ways in which you might want to take Python and kind of pepper it into your overall workflows. And then number 2, tell us what you want to see next. I want to know what you all want to see out of Python. I want to know what you see out of R. I want to know how you use it. Post on the SAS communities forums what you want to see. Talk to your SAS rep. Tell them, I want to do this thing next. Email SAS tech support. However you want to do it, I want to know, and we all want to know, because I care a lot about how you use this and the next things you want to see. And the more information I could get from all you, the easier it is for me to say, hey guys, we need to go out and do this. So however you want to do that, please let us know. And then finally, number 3, have a blast at the kickback party. Really excited about this one. So thank you all so very, very much for being here. Really excited to be able to chat with you all tonight. And with that, we'll go ahead and open it on up to questions. I think we've got a little bit of time.
We've got about 2 minutes for questions. I think this gentleman had his hand up first, and then if we have time, we'll come to you.
Thank you.
Yes.
You took a moment to call out the method to lowercase all of the column names.
Yep.
For historical reasons, SAS has a global option to uppercase all variable names, but no global option to lowercase all variable names. Since lowercase seems to be the preference for most R and Python programmers, do you think it would be reasonable to revisit that and make valid var name equal lowcase a thing at some point?
I love that idea, and I'm going to talk with some people about that. That's a great idea, yeah. Yeah, I always feel like when they're all in uppercase, it's like they're yelling. I don't like that. I want it lowercase.
Yeah. Thanks again.
Yes.
In SAS Workbench, you showed you could create a virtual environment.
Mm-hmm.
Is it same facility available in other interfaces, like in SAS Studio and other places that you showed you can run Python? Can you create virtual environment there?
Yeah, so in SAS Viya, not Workbench, but like Enterprise SAS Viya, the way you configure virtual environments is through what's called the open source configurator. And that is actually done through Kubernetes, so you kind of edit some files and it creates your environments for you. We're actively working on making that a different user experience that's more within SAS Environment Manager. So the idea is you can have a visual place where you can create your virtual environments and do that type of thing. Because when people work with Python for the very first time, they are used to using that. That's what they want to be able to get into Bash and create their virtual environments. But you can't just like give somebody Bash access to a production server for like 1,000 reasons. So we're trying to come up with like, how do we get close to that while still maintaining safety and governance and all that good stuff. So we're working on that right now, but right now it's through the open source configurator, and it's really well documented actually, so it shows you exactly how to do that. But you can create multiple environments with it. Yeah.